Yeah, one thing that sometimes happens to me is I have to stop sharing between the PowerPoint and the internet.
I shared the screen instead of sharing the PowerPoint, so it should work, but we'll see.
Okay, yeah.
We'll deal with it when we get to it.
I'm gonna let you get to it.
So how many people do we have so far? Oh, got quite a few. Oh, wow. Okay, so if you have just joined us, there are a few questions on the screen. We were just getting started since we had some people here early, but we're going to go back a little bit. But I just wanted people to go ahead and get started just answering these questions in the chat. I just want to get an idea of who's here because this is a very flexible presentation. It's really informational and it's for you guys. And so if I have a better idea of the answer to these questions, I kind of know what areas to focus on and what I don't need to dwell on. Let's see. So, hi, Lorraine. Have not applied. Okay, so we have 2 have not applied. Okay, so let's go back here. All right, so welcome everybody. I think I know almost all of you. Couple, and I see some more stuff coming in the chat. I'll get back to that. Couple unfamiliar, but for the most part, most of you are familiar. But welcome everybody. So this is Intro to CFES Grants, and I'm Lauren Zarin. I'm the program officer at the Community Foundation, and Heather Mailer's on also, and she's the program director. And then we also have Carly with us. She's our intern this summer. So the purpose of this presentation was really, it was kind of combination. It was for new applicants, it's to give kind of an overview of what we have available. And for people who have applied before, just to give an overview of all of our available grants right now or upcoming. And then really probably the main purpose of this was to make sure that you're all aware of the information and the resources that we have available for our applicants, because we have a lot of stuff available and I don't think that everyone's aware of it. We're trying to do a better job of getting that information out there because we have resources for you for before, during, and after applying for and receiving grants. And so based on, and let me look back in the chat and see some more answers here. So Humane Society. Okay, Megan, so you haven't applied personally. First time applying. Okay. Okay, so it looks like we have a mix of first time applicants, existing applicants. So just some basic housekeeping for the workshops. If you could all mute your microphones, or I think I'll go ahead and mute you, but please feel free to unmute when you have a question. Heather might be keeping an eye on the chat, but you can also absolutely unmute and interrupt. There's no, you're not gonna bother anything if you interrupt me at any point. That's perfectly fine. So feel free to unmute and interrupt. Let me see. Unmute me. Let's see if I have the ability to mute everybody. Heather, I just saw your message. If you let them know, if they go to the events page and click in there, there's an access button there that works fine. Okay. And Heather, if you can mute everybody, I don't think I have the ability on mine to mute all. But anyway, so if you haven't been muted, she muted me. Okay. Am I? Can you guys hear me? Somebody give me a thumbs up.
You're fine. I got you
Okay.
unmuted. Sorry. I'll go ahead and get it's Godwin, the last name Godwin. I'll go ahead and get her in.
Okay. All right. So let's see, move on to the next one now. So I don't have much in the way of slides because most of what I'm going to show you is going to be on our website. But the last slide does have a couple of links on it that'll be useful. It has a link to our nonprofits page, which is where you access our Egrants platform, a link to the Grantee Toolkit and the Publicity Toolkit. And really, if you can get to those places, you can get to any information you need to apply for grants, to navigate the Egrants Portal, to, report on whatever information you need, you're going to be able to get to. So I will send these slides out along with a couple of attachments in a Google Drive after the workshop. So you don't have to memorize everything that I'm going to show you. The most important thing is going to be having those links and just being aware that this stuff is there, and then you'll be able to go back to it. And as we go, this is a really good opportunity for you guys to ask questions. So whether it's asking questions about specific grants that you're interested in applying for, or anything about the process or about the Egrants platform, or if you're working on, I know we had a few people working on community needs. And so if you're doing that and you have questions about your application, this is a great opportunity to ask questions. And Maria, I don't know, has anybody else lost video? Maria said she's lost video. I'm not hearing that from anybody else. And Heather, they're asking if the recording will be available. I saw that we're recording, so then it would be available. Yep. Okay. So here's kind of a basic agenda for what I'm going to go over. We only have a couple new applicants, but I want to just kind of briefly show you how to get to the Egrants platform and create an account. That'll be pretty quick. It's a simple process. And again, as long as you can get there, these instructions are available through the links that are on that last slide that I have. So again, you don't have to memorize it, but I will show you, give you a brief demonstration because it's nice to have a visual. Then we'll look at the current available grants while we're there, because everything that we have either available now or upcoming is currently posted on our eGrants page. There's nothing that we have that isn't up there right now. Some of them aren't open, but they're all up there. So we'll take a look at those. And then we'll take a look inside eGrants, just kind of take a look at what it looks like. Again, I won't dwell on it too long because we have a lot of people here who've applied for grants. But I will click into a community needs application, and if anybody's working on it, wants to ask about a specific section or anything, we'll have an opportunity for that. One of the biggest things we really want to make sure you're aware of and show you is the Grantee Toolkit. We haven't had it all that long, about a year, so we want to make sure that you're aware it's there. It's where there's a ton of resources there for applying for grants and for post acceptance of an award. Then I'll show you the Publicity Toolkit and the nonprofit resources page, again, just to make sure you know that they're there and kind of have an idea of what's on them. And then we'll do questions at the end, but again, questions all the way along is perfectly fine and welcome. Okay, so let me see. Now this is going to be the tricky part. Let's see if this works. Are you seeing my internet? Yes? Okay, so that worked. Okay, so first, getting to the grants page. So you go to our website, it's cfes.org. And then this nonprofits tab here, this is where you want to go. This is where everything lives. If you're a grantee or if you're an applicant, this is where you want to be. So on the nonprofits page of our website, first I'll take you to the Egrants Portal. So there's this first block here. You got to click on the little arrow. And that's going to take you to the main welcome page for eGrants. So this is our grants portal. And I think most of you should be familiar with it. It'll be new to a few of you. But this is where you can either log in or view all grants. And it's also where you'll create an account. So we'll click here. Now, if you wanted to, I'll show you real quick where you create an account. If you click login and you scroll down to the bottom here, this is where you create a new account. It doesn't ask for a lot of information. It's very easy to do. So these are all of our grant programs that are available right now, and I want to just give a brief overview of them. I won't go into all the minutia because it's here, and you know how to get here now, and you can come in and read, if something grabs your attention or you're interested in a particular grant, you can come here and read more information about it, but I will give an overview of what we have. We have opening August 1st, our education grants. That's for K through 12 schools. Maximum $5,000, and that deadline for that one is October 1st. And I'll also say all of our grants are for organizations in Somerset, Wycomico, and Worcester counties. That's our service area. So that's going to be a basic eligibility requirement across the board. And let's see, we always have the letter of inquiry open. So let me just give a little bit of clarification on what the purpose of that is. So if you have something that you want to submit an application, but you're not really sure where you fit on here, and you're not sure, if it fits in mini grants or community needs or workforce development, or you just don't really know, you can submit the letter of inquiry. It's just kind of a simple, essentially a one-pager, but there might be a couple questions. You can feel free to just attach an actual letter of inquiry and put that in the narrative, just say see attached letter. And so when you submit that, we'll take a look at it and we'll decide for you where it fits. And we'll get back to you and we'll let you know. We'll say, yeah, we're interested in this, but we think it would be best if you came through community needs, or it would be best if you submitted a mini grant application. Occasionally we can award straight from a letter of inquiry, but usually we'll need a little bit more information. But it's just a good way to kind of say, hey, we have this, what do you think about it? That's always open. So that deadline date, that's just a fiscal year date. So that'll always be there. The mini grant is our other application that's always open. You'll see a deadline date of the 15th of each month. So just something to keep in mind here. That is a rolling deadline. It's really just to let you know basically about the review period and the response time. So if you get it in by the 15th, say, of August, then it will go to our board for review the following month. If you don't get it in before or by the 15th, we can't guarantee it's going to make it to the September board. So that's just really a review timeline kind of, guide for you. But it is always open. I have some people call me sometimes saying, I see the deadlines tomorrow and I haven't submitted my mini grant. Will it stay open? And yes, it'll roll over. You don't have to worry about that. Another thing that I'll note is we had for the past year plus, we had the COVID-19 emergency fund grants available. The requests for that really slowed down. So we went ahead and rolled it into the mini grant application. So now if you're looking for that, we are still accepting COVID related requests, but you can submit those through the mini grant. The maximum for that is $2,000. And we do have some focus areas for the mini grants. They are youth, emergency assistance, and technology for the office, like office equipment. However, this is also where we have a lot of field of interest funds for like arts or the environment or things like that. And this is kind of where we're able to employ those funds. So if you have kind of, requests that are kind of programmatic and specific to your niche area, they very well may be able to come through mini grants as long as they're under 2,000. And if you're not sure, you can always ask. Our contact information is also on these slides if you don't have it already. And we're always available if you have questions. This is new. It started last year, but we're really kind of, it's really kind of going to take off this year. This is kind of its first year with a name anyway. The FY22 Mission Possible. This is a non-cash grant. It's for capacity building for nonprofits. And so essentially what it is, it's underwriting different consulting services and benefits. There's a lot of information. All of these, you can click on the names to get more information. And I'm not going to read through it, but there's some of the, we'll underwrite services for accounting or strategic planning or human resources, grant writing, grant seeking, that kind of stuff. So it's a capacity building program. And it's up to $1,000 worth of consulting services. And we have our community needs. So that's our most robust and kind of all-encompassing grant. Most of you are probably familiar with our community needs grant. We started recently, we changed it to a letter of inquiry to application process. So we start now with a letter of inquiry. We just wrapped up our recent cycle. So our next one, the letter of inquiry phase, will open January 1st, 2022. But that's a $5,000 maximum, and it's our least restricted grant. And since COVID, we have started accepting operational requests. We used to only accept programmatic requests. We didn't fund unrestricted, or we didn't give unrestricted funds or cover operating costs. But we've recently started doing that, and we have not made a decision yet on whether or not that will stick. But for the time being, that is the case. So we also have the Women's Fund grant. So they are a component fund of the Community Foundation, and that grant serves women and girls on the Lower Eastern Shore. Also a $5,000 maximum, and it also has a letter of inquiry phase. That one opens February 1st. And finally, we have our workforce development grants. They're our largest grant, maximum $7,500, and that is for different professional development and any kind of workforce related programs, job training. There's more information in here if you want to look through it, but on the specifics of what we'll fund, but it's anything workforce related. And that one also opens August 1st, so that's coming up. And that closes October 1st as well. So that is a basic overview of what we have available. Do you have any specific questions or any questions about any of those grants? Anybody?
Lauren, this is Patty Stevens. I do have a question.
Sure.
Is it possible that a project or idea or an organization could, in their letter of inquiry, there might be multiple elements? There's something that it has a workforce component, but that also has an operational or maybe fits more under mini grant. Would it be ever that you would say, this looks like it has a piece that fits under here or a piece that fits under here, or would those all be independent processes?
So it depends. That is an instance where if you wanted to, and if you had the time, if you need something quickly, you wouldn't have the time to go through that letter of inquiry. But if you do have the time, you can submit that and let us decide that. Also, and this might be helpful information for that, you can only, for each of these grants, you can only receive one per year, but you can receive one of multiple grants per year. So you can apply for a mini grant and a workforce development grant in the same year or at the same time. But it's always good if it's one program, then it's a good idea to reach out to us and ask, because it might be iffy about whether or not we'd want to split one program into two grants. So that's something that might be a case by case. You can definitely call or email us and ask about it. But also, so for you mentioned operational, the workforce development grants were also accepting operational support. And I'll clarify one thing about that, because we do get some people who say, well, I kind of want some for programs and some for operations. When we say operational support, what we're really saying here is unrestricted funds. So if you have both, just submit an operational request, because you can use that funding for your program. You don't have to, it's not restricted to anything in particular.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yep, that's really helpful. I have a parallel question.
Okay.
I put in the chat, co-chair of the Worcester County Bike and Pedestrian Coalition, which is a coalition that includes a number of nonprofits and local governments in Worcester County, as well as with Salisbury and Wacomico. And we would like to apply for maybe a couple different grants that would benefit a number of those organizations. The coalition itself is not a 501c3, but a couple of our member organizations are. My thought was that they would apply on behalf of the proposal that the coalition would do. Could you see that being viable?
Yep, so we definitely need to be one of the 501c3s that would apply.
Right.
So that is an instance where you would have one of them and they would essentially be acting as the fiscal sponsor.
Right.
But they'd also, I suppose, be the applicant, I mean, the grantee anyway, because they'd be benefiting from the funds. But you would want to put in the narrative, you'd want to clarify that in the narrative that the funding was for multiple organizations.
Mhm.
And sometimes it depends on what it's for. Occasionally, if you're working on something that's collaborative, that's going to benefit multiple organizations, sometimes we have some flexibility on the amounts, like the award maximums or which ones you can apply for. So that's another one where you might want to have a conversation with us one-on-one when you get closer to it. But yes, the short answer would be that one of the 501c3 organizations would act as the fiscal sponsor and be the applicant, and then put in the narrative all the organizations that it's serving.
Great, thank you so much.
You're welcome. And we had a question in the chat if our grants are available for organizations in all 50 states. And again, no, our service area is limited to Worcester, Wycomico, and Somerset counties in Maryland. That's in our bylaws, and community foundations are usually restricted to a certain geographic area. And so that's our area. Any other questions? No? Okay. So while we're here, I'll go ahead and I'll look in, give you a look into what an application looks like or what the dashboard looks like. And we'll poke around here a little bit. And again, this is a flexible, sorry, I'm typing and talking at the same time. Let me finish typing first. This is a flexible presentation. So again, I'm trying to kind of tailor it to your needs. So I can do whatever you want me to do. If you don't give me any direction or questions, I'll just kind of give an overview, but I'm happy to dig more into anything if you're interested. So when you log in, once you have an account created, this is what it's going to look like. If you're new, you won't have any of these here on the My Applications list. But if you've filled out an application before or started one, it'll be here. You can also get to the search page from here. Don't worry about the proxy applications. You do have as far as the proxies go, you do have the option sometimes to, for certain applications, to apply for somebody else. So that's what that is, but that's a little more nuanced. So since we have some people working on the community needs grant, I'll use that as an example. So when you click into the grant, this is your dashboard. So anytime, like if I'm sending out instructions, like please click the accept button on your application dashboard, or you'll find the report forms in your application dashboard. That's what this is. This is the dashboard. And so this is what it looks like before you've submitted an application. The deadline's always up here on the left-hand corner. And there's some useful things here that I don't think everyone knows about. So this choose action dropdown, first of all, this is where you can preview your application as you're filling it out. So your application is made up of all these sections here, these different boxes. But if you want to see what it looks like with everything you've entered so far, that's one place where you can do that. So see, if you preview the application, mine's blank, but you can look at it as you go. And another thing in here, the import responses from existing applications. So if you've submitted an application before, now they need to be either similar applications, if not the same, you know, an FY21 of one application and FY22. But say you submitted an FY21 community needs and you're submitting an FY22 community needs. It can be helpful to import certain sections. Sometimes you might have other reasons. There's various situations where this becomes useful, but just so that you know it's there, you might not know you need it until you need it. but that option is there to import responses. So it can just help speed up the process a little bit and get rid of some of the redundancy when it comes to things like agency information section and demographics and things like that. But if you use that, just be sure you always go back through and check the information that imported, because you want to make sure there aren't any dates that need to be updated or new fields that weren't there in the previous application. But it is useful to have. The other one, add collaborators. So this is another good one to have. If you want to work on an application with someone else, they need to have an account, or you can create one for them. But you have the option to add a collaborator. And when you do that, it walks you through the process. And there are instructions in some of the resources that I'm going to show you, so I won't go into all the details, but this is where you do that. And it'll walk you through the process of assigning somebody else to certain sections of the application, and where you can assign them to all of them. But it allows other people to work on the same application with you. And let's see, agency is pretty basic. So this is what it looks like now that we're accepting both operational and programs. You have to select which one it is, and it'll ask you specific questions based on what type of request you have. While I have you, I'm just going to show you this because we have a lot of trouble with this. When you download the expense table, here, see, it looks like this. When you fill this out, you can only, it'll let you change the stuff in the template, but only put stuff in these columns here. Don't change anything that's already there as far as column A or the title row or the bottom row. Don't change anything in those cells. See where it says here on the notes. If you do, it's just a formatting technology thing. It's when you go to upload it, it won't accept it. It'll give you an error because you've changed something, and it does it behind the scenes. But if you change anything, it's going to give you an error. So that's not. And if you did it perfectly and it's still giving you an error, that does happen sometimes, please let me know. You can email me the form and I can see what I can do about it. But just as a general rule to keep in mind. And then you upload that back in there. But I don't want to go too much into this application unless people have questions about the application. So anybody who's working on a community needs grant application right now, do you have any questions about it, or anybody have any questions about what they see right here? No. Oh, hold on, we got something in the chat. Okay, so Tamika, so you can't add someone's name to your account. They would need to have their own account, but I can link them together. So you would both create an account, and then if it doesn't link automatically, you can let me know, and there's a way that I can link it from the administrative side. And that would allow you to see the same applications and be able to access. Now, one person will have ownership, so you would still need to assign a collaborator or add a collaborator in order to have somebody else work on it. But that's how you can link people together. Does that answer your question? Or okay, sure. Anybody else? No community needs people? Okay. In that case, I think we will get out of eGrants and get to the thing that I want to make sure everybody knows about. So there's a link to it here, but I'll also show you out here. So on that nonprofits page where we were before, there's the Grantee Toolkit. It's right here. And this brings you to a whole bunch of resources that we have for before, during, and after you apply for a grant award. Now, I have somebody doing lawn work outside of my window and it's really loud. Hopefully it's not bothering you guys. But so one disclaimer I have to throw out there though, because like I said, we have during COVID, we changed some of our applications and some of our parameters a little bit. So there's a lot of videos on here. You might see some things that look different. There might be a couple things, like especially about the operational support part of it, that's different. But the information that's in here is all relevant and useful. So yes, you will see some discrepancies, but that doesn't, everything in here is relevant and useful. And that we made a couple of aesthetic changes to the website, and those parts haven't been updated yet in the videos. So if you see some little differences here and there, that's what that's about. And I'm not going to show you everything here. I want to just kind of briefly make sure that you're aware that this stuff is here. So for the new people that we have that haven't applied, like I told you before, you don't have to memorize what I showed you as far as getting to the to Egrants Portal or creating an account. We've got a video here. That's one where the website has changed a little bit since we did it, so it looks kind of different, but once you get to Egrants, everything's the same. There's an Egrants applicant guide. That's a big one. That's like the full applicant guide. So any technical issue that you might have is going to be in there somewhere. Searching for grants and starting an application. Again, everything I just showed you, there's a video there, you know, if you need a refresher. Eligibility and exclusions. This is pretty general. And I think it tells you somewhere in here that each specific program is going to have its own unique things, but this is the general stuff. So these things here, that's in general, we typically don't fund these things here, and general eligibility. So that's there if you have questions about that. The community needs pre-application tutorial, that's really comprehensive. It's another one that hasn't, that only talks about programmatic requests. And again, like I said, we don't know whether or not we're sticking with this change. So once we know that, we'll update everything to reflect that. But for the time being, it's just going to talk about programmatic requests, but it's a really in-depth video that shows you, goes section by section in the community needs application and gives you like tips and pointers on exactly what we're looking for. Excuse me. So that's there. So for during your application, there's a video, I talked about that importing responses. If you either need to see an actual demonstration of it happening, or you forget where it is or whatever, there's that shows you. There's a video demonstration on adding a collaborator. It'll walk you all the way through the full process, which I didn't do. Then there's different application sections. So the budget section, the project goals, the request section. People have some trouble with that sometimes. That's the section where you send a signature request to somebody else for an authorizing signature. Either you send it to your executive director, or if you are the director, you send it to your board chair. And so there's a video on that. And then there's a bunch of basic eGrants troubleshooting questions. So there are certain errors that people run into all the time, or certain technical glitches or difficulties that people have that are very common. So I'm not going to read through them, but just to show you that it's here. This is here. So there are different questions on here that you might have that a lot of people have had. So it's just a little one-sheeter, but that resource is there for you. So after you receive an award, there's a video on how to accept an award, because it's a brief process, but there is a process to it. You have to log into your account. There is, on that dashboard, you'll suddenly see a grant agreement section that wasn't there before, and you'll need to click into that and sign it, basically. And then you go back to your dashboard and click on the accept award button. And we need you to do that because that's basically the electronic grant agreement that we need. You know, it used to be paper. We used to mail them and you'd mail them back. But so we need you to do that process before we'll mail out checks. So I'll send you an award notice. It'll come from the system. It comes from, it's called admin@communityforest.org or .com in your email. But so you'll get an award notice. And then I'll give you a few days to about a week. And if I don't see that you've accepted it, then I'm going to start bugging you for it. So I'll send you little reminders. By the way, this award's waiting for you. But that's why. It's because it counts as our grant agreement. So we do need that done before we can send out an award. There's a sample grant agreement here. If you're curious as to what's actually in our grant agreement, you can come back and take a look at this. And the reporting requirements. So there's a video on how to do your reporting. It basically shows you the forms on the dashboard, what they look like and how you do it. So your reports will also show up on your dashboard after you've accepted an award. They're just basically a new section. So you'll go in there to fill out your form. So sometimes people will contact me to ask me for the form and say, where's the final report form? It's always going to be on your application dashboard. Sometimes it'll have the deadline on it and sometimes it won't. It's just the way the system's set up. It depends on what type of grant it is and what the deadline is, because it kind of pulls from the deadline. So the best thing to do is to remember that grants over $2,000 are going to require a 6-month report and a 12-month report. So when you get your award letter, just go ahead and mark on your calendar the 6-month point and the 1-year point, because that's always going to be your report deadlines. If it's under $2,000, it's 1 report after 12 months. So you don't have to do 2. And everything that I just said is in this reporting requirements by program document here. So if you have questions about your specific, it breaks it down, whether you got a mini grant or one of the larger grants. It talks about all the specifics of the reporting requirements. So if you have any questions, you can look at that too. We also have a grant modification request option. That's another section that'll pop up on your dashboard. So if you get to your 1-year point and you haven't been able to use all of your funds, you can submit that grant modification request form. You need to let me know that you're submitting it, because the system's not going to tell me that you did. But you can go in there and you can request a 6-month extension. You can also request a budget revision. So if something's not working out or an expense kind of changed, or you need more money for something that you thought you needed less and less for, vice versa, you can revise that budget, but you have to request that revision first. We have to make sure that that it's okay and see if we need to run it by any of the committees before we approve it. But that form is on your dashboard as well. Let's see, reporting. So the logos in the publicity toolkit, and the publicity toolkit was the second to last thing on my agenda. But if you're ever looking for community foundation logos, we have them here. And we have this grantee publicity toolkit. So part of the grant agreement has some publicity suggestions. I don't like to call them requirements, because it's not, there are certain things that we prefer that you do. But this grantee publicity toolkit is here. It has a ton of resources that Victoria, our marketing officer, put up here. It has, let's see, it has some tips. It has some specific things that we prefer that you do. It has templates. And it gives some instruction on how to refer to us and some sample things that you can say if you just want to say, thank you for the grants, or, post something on your social media. It's got little one-liners. It's got all of our social media tags. It has press release questions. It has press release samples. It has all kinds of stuff down here. And I think these are suggestions, canva.com and NP Tech for Good. And then our logos over here. So if you ever need a CFES logo to post on your social media or in a press release or whatever it is, we love if you do that. We appreciate it. And they're all here. You've got your pings, your PDFs, and your vectors. So that's there. And the easiest way to get to that is from, I believe, from the nonprofits page. Let me see if she's got that there. The easiest way to get to it's going to be from the Grantee Toolkit. So just remember that you can get to that Publicity Toolkit in the Grantee Toolkit. And again, it's one of the links that I provided on the last slide of the PowerPoint. So if you have that, you'll be able to get back to it. So this is really what I wanted to show you guys, to make sure that you knew this was here, and that if you have those links to these pages, you can basically get to any information that you need. So whatever questions you have as either a new applicant, an existing applicant, a recipient, those questions are probably answered somewhere on here. And we're always available, but these resources can be really helpful for you. And then the last thing that I was just going to show you, I'm not going to go through it, but in case you haven't seen it, our nonprofit support and resources is also a pretty robust page. We've got all kinds of things on here. We have our nonprofit scholarship program. In case you're not aware of that, Warwick has classes, has non-credit classes that we will provide scholarships for to nonprofit employees. And so our application for that lives here and the Warwick catalog lives here. We have information for starting a nonprofit. We have, for new nonprofits, we have template libraries and policy libraries. We have grant seeker resources, information about the foundation directory online, nonprofit research. So just want to make sure you know this is here. There's a wealth of information and resources for you. Let's see. Yeah, so that's pretty much what I have to show you. Do we have any questions about any of that? Or any questions that you had before you came here? Any questions about it? Anything really? No? Okay. You're welcome, Maria. So yeah, like I said, we really wanted to be able to just get this information out there and make sure that you are all aware of what resources we have available for you, and give you a chance to ask any questions about our grants. So that's really all I have for you. So if you don't have any questions, then we can wrap it up. And I will, like I said, I'll send these slides out with a couple of attachments. You're welcome, Tamika. And yeah, so that's really all I've got.
Thanks, Lauren.
You're welcome. So thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you.